everyone, I'm Abigail. This is Inessa, and welcome to another Two Kids interview.
Today we are joined by author and illustrator Nilah Magruder.
Ms. Magruder has written books for kids of all ages, including the graphic novel Creaky and the middle grade book M.F.K.
In 2016, she became the first African American woman to write Marvel Comics.
She has also worked as a storyboard artist for Disney and DreamWorks, and she created the Marvel character Spider-Byte.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is one of my favorite movies. I saw you worked on it. What was your role with it?
So I created the character Spider-Byte for Marvel Comics back in 2018. And when Sony was developing Across the Spider-Verse, they needed a particular spider variant to play a certain role in the movie, and based on what has happened, I assume they needed like a techie spider variant, and so they were looking through Marvel's vast catalog of characters, and they found Spider-Byte and decided, this is it, this is the character they need. So they contacted me and asked me to help consult on the movie. So my role as a Marvel consultant, we've talked a bit about Spider-Byte's backstory, her function in the Marvel universe. I've contributed some ideas for story beats in the movie.
How did you decide what powers she would have, and what did you consider but leave out?
So Marvel reached out to me because they were developing, I guess, kind of a tie-in story with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So they needed to create a bunch of spider variants for the multiverse. And they gave me free reign. They said, hey, do you want to create a spider variant? So I came to them with a few different pitches, but when I was coming up with ideas, it hit me that there really wasn't a digital spider. It made sense to me because, this is a character that could crawl on the World Wide Web. It just seemed like a no-brainer, and I was really surprised that Marvel didn't have one yet. So that was the impetus for Spider-Byte.
Is there a comic book character you have been developing and hope that will make its debut at some point?
Ooh, not really. Not. Do you mean for Marvel specifically? Just any character?
Yeah.
You know, I've actually been writing a new graphic novel series. It's a 2-book series called Hex and Havoc, and it's a young adult fantasy that I'm really excited about. There's magic, there's revolution, there's romance. The main characters for that are named, and they're 2 teenagers in this kind of strict magical society where there's a lot of injustice, and they come together and basically, try to change their world. That story I'm still working on with HarperCollins, and it's been a graphic novels take a very long time. It's been a journey. And another artist is illustrating it named Sonia Lau, and she's just doing an amazing job. It looks beautiful, and I'm excited for people to see it when it comes out.
There is more diversity in books than ever before, and you are a part of that in multiple ways. What does that mean to you?
Well, for me, it means readers have more options. When I was a little kid coming up, stories were mostly about white children, white people. And, even as I was finding myself, I love to draw, I love to make up characters, I had trouble envisioning Black characters because I didn't really see them in the stories that I was seeing growing up as a kid. And so these days, you see so much more variety. So, children are not only getting a chance to see themselves in fiction, but they're getting a chance to experience, other cultures and other lifestyles than their own. And I think this is, it's my hope. I think reading is a great way to, open up your mind and your world and build empathy and compassion for other people. And so it's my hope that seeing more, just storytelling in books and television and film is going to help make people more open minded.
Book banning is increasing. 2 days ago, we held a Right to Read event at our library. What are your thoughts on book bans?
Book bans are not great. I think, I think it's a real shame that, you know, I think restricting knowledge is it kills society. I think I I haven't had to answer this question yet. So I'm trying to think how to frame my thoughts here. People should be free to access knowledge and decide what they want to read and how they want to, how they want to receive information. And, I think it's clear that a lot of book banning targets, it targets diversity. It targets, you know, like real moments in our history that people should know about. And definitely, book banning is definitely a way of oppressing people, of, keeping oppressed people down. So, I'm not a fan. And I really think, the way to fight book banning is to get involved in your community, to get involved in your local libraries, to, get involved in your local government, because that's where these decisions get made. And, it's heartening to me. I see a lot of authors, librarians, teachers, readers speaking book banning. So I think, I do think that, uh, there is resistance to the idea. So that heartens me.
Do you have any concerns about artificial intelligence and its impact on the publishing industry?
So it's definitely artificial intelligence is a huge concern. There's so many downsides to it that it's hard to like a lot of generative when we say AI, that's become kind of a confusing term. And so specifically what I'm referencing here is generative text and imagery that it comes from databases that have stolen existing material from artists and writers to, basically it takes that material and basically composites it together. And so a lot of the material that these databases are trained on, it's stolen content. It's, from artists and writers, which are still living. It is a huge energy sink. So it's detrimental to our environment. It's, data centers are taking over what could be, useful ecological habitat. It's, it's increasing emissions. It's basically contributing to the warming of our planet, which we're already fighting against. And a lot of the downsides, a lot of the harm that generative AI is creating is invisible. It's happening in communities and it's happening to people that most of us don't see. So it feels like harmless fun, but it's not. With technology, there's always a cost. And I think generative AI is really good at hiding that cost. But eventually, people are already feeling it, and more people are going to feel it.
Would Spider-Byte be the right hero to help us if AI tries to take over the world?
That is a good question, and it's that sort of thing that I wanted to write about. if Spider-Byte ever got a solo run, because I think she exists in a world. This leap to AI is probably underway, so there's a lot of overlap between her world and our world right now. And so I kind of envisioned, this is a world that is being taken over by techno billionaires, and her real fight is kind of you know all about saving people from this sense of and this dehumanizing technology. So I think she would be the perfect person to fight against AI.
What is the funniest story you have from working on a movie?
On Spider-Verse specifically,
And
I guess the funniest story I have, I don't have very many stories, but I think the funniest thing that happened to me was, there was a point when I hadn't heard from Sony in a while. And so I kind of just assumed that movie. And so I was like, the movie was, it hadn't come out yet. And it'd been so long that I was like, oh, well, she probably got cut and that's okay. That's just Hollywood. I'm not surprised. And then out of nowhere, one of the producers, Phil Lord, sent me a message on Twitter, and he just tweeted at me on Twitter, and hey Nilah, this is Phil Lord. Can you DM me? And it was public, so it was just like sitting there on Twitter for anyone to see. And I was kind of like, why are you contacting me this way? Don't you have my email? Don't you have my phone number? And so I DM'd him, and meanwhile, like all my friends were like just liking this tweet, and it was, I won't say it was embarrassing, but I was just like, oh my God.
Writer has had the most influence on you?
Oh dear. What writer has had the most influence on me? Uh, let's see. That's always a hard one because I think every writer I've ever read has had some influence on me, so it's always hard for me to rank them. I just got to meet Derek, and he came up in webcomics. He was developing webcomics back when I was like just graduating high school. And this was back in the early 2000s. So webcomics were kind of new. The internet as a just a home technology was still pretty new. And Derek Kirkham's webcomics were some of the first that I'd ever read. And that was really influential for me. Like I told him, he's one of the reasons that I decided to go into webcomics. And I always like to say my favorite book, my favorite story is Watership Down. So I would say Richard Adams is also very important to me. And I don't know why. Like Watership Down was just like, I don't know. I weirdly imprinted on that story when I was a kid, and it still means a lot to me today.
you mentioned Hex and Havoc.
Yeah.
Are there any other projects that you are working on?
Yes. Yes, I'm also working on a middle grade graphic novel. It's actually based on my life, and it's about a summer vacation that I took when I was 12 years old to North Carolina. And it's about fishing and boys and self-identity. And that I am in the middle of drawing it now, so it'll come out eventually.
Finally, it's time for our Turbo 10.
10 rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Number 1, what is your favorite phrase to use?
My favorite phrase?
To use.
Oh, and that's showbiz, kid.
Number 2, what is one subject you'd love to learn more about?
My college. That's the study of mushrooms.
Number 3, what is your go-to snack food?
Popcorn.
Number 4, what was your favorite comic book character growing up?
Ooh, favorite comic character. Snoopy.
Number 5, if you could teleport somewhere right now, where would you go?
South Korea.
Number 6, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
To talk to animals.
Number 7, what was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Ooh. Sailor Moon.
Number 8, what is your favorite rainy day activity?
To bake.
Number 9, if you could have any 3 dinner guests, who would they be?
Oh, 3 dinner guests. Okay. Let's see. Alive or dead?
No rules.
No rules. Okay. 3 dinner guests. I'm blanking on all of them. Anne Hathaway. Let's see. I'm like thinking, who would I want to meet? Let's see. Peter S. Beagle. And I think my great grandmother, because I never met her.
Number 10, what is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Best piece of advice is, let's see, to trust your instincts. And I think that's a good one in all parts of your life, whether creative or, your personal life. Just always trust your instincts.
You are awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
Of course.